Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm going to be doing some more on the V8. Wait a minute, that's not a V8, that's a Mercedes. Now I'm going to do a quick look at the Mercedes just because people keep asking what's happening with the Mercedes. Well, I took the wing off a little while ago and exposed some pretty poor looking under seal and a couple of small holes which are down here and somewhere else. So hang on, let's just fire it up quickly and then tell you what's going on. Right, this is, as always, the first crank in a few weeks. Ooh, nearly there. Auto choke and everything being a bit cold. Lovely. Amazing engineering. This and the Volvo really are quite amazing cars in terms of the engineering in them. Right, so what's going on with this car? Basically, I need to carry on with the welding. I've taken the wing off. That wing is pretty much scrap. It was very rusty, so I've binned that. The other wing I'm going to take off at some point soon and have a look at what the status is underneath there. The front valance is a bit mangled. It looks like someone's clunked into something on it, so I'm going to have to get a new front valance to go with that front wing. The bonnet, if you look up there, I'll try and zoom in enough to see that. That is a bad home paint job which has now become damp and gone manky, so I'm going to have to sand back that bonnet and repaint that, I guess myself for the time being, just to make it not rusty. I could do with a new grille, and it's missing its star, so I need a new star as well. Anyway, I can live with the grille, but I really want a star on it. Anywho, oh, and the bumper's a bit bent too, so it wants a bumper on it. A few bits and bobs to be doing. Anyway, the reason I've not touched this car for a few weeks is because it lives outside under a sheet, which is never the best way to keep a car, I'm fully aware of that. But while it's been wet, snowing, raining, the wind is now so bad around here that my wheelie bin vanished down the road. It's got to go on a speed awareness course after the police stopped it. Anywho, right, so the weather is starting to improve, so hopefully in a few days I can get out here on a nice dry warm day where it's not too windy and start tackling a little bit of, a very small amount of rust under that wing, take off that wing and find out what the situation is, and then sort out the brakes on this as well, because that's the other issue that is, well, very much an issue. Right. Oh yeah, the other thing, yeah, I've been looking for ages, I keep forgetting to actually go out and order the big bits of wood and plastic sheeting. I've drawn a design. I'm going to build a little roofy thing over this area here to make it drier, nicer, less windy, better to work in basically, a little mini studio to be in. Then I can maybe get this Mercedes back on the road again. Wouldn't that be nice? Right, let's go and do some more V8 stuff. So, exciting news, this pulley wheel thing and the other bracket, which I didn't need anymore, did both turn up in the week. I soaked them in rust remover for a few days because they were pretty crusty. One side came up sort of not disgusting, the other one is still disgusting, so I'll give those and the fan a bit of a tickle with a wire brush and make them look prettier before they go on the car. Well, there you go, that's borderline half decent, certainly enough for a fan that's going to be spinning pretty fast most of the time, and some brackets, which pretty much no one's going to see. So let's get some black paint on these bits and some red paint on this, and the front of the car will look spectacular. Because this is straight to aluminium, I've gone in with the wrong thing. I should have gone with edge primer. I'll start again. Now, before I get too far into today's project, I will say that I know I was planning to get this car started today, but what you're going to watch over the next few minutes has actually taken several hours, or a lot of hours, over several days during this last week. So unlike projects like Roadkill, TV shows where everything seems to happen really quickly, Roadkill are a genuine show, they've got lots more talent and people than I have. Everything takes time, and there's often unforeseen roadblocks towards getting parts, figuring things out. And a project like this, we're putting the wrong engine into a car, even though it's the right engine, the systems around it don't necessarily fit, which is why we've kind of only got as far as we have with this project at the moment. So yeah, please bear with me, I'm working as fast as I can. Meanwhile, if you want to help support the channel, then there's links to become a channel member or a Patreon in the links below, or grab yourself a mug, Furious Driving, Rover, Volvo, the Rover 200, Quentin, yeah, lots of different merchandise options. Hit the links below, go over to the Redbubble store, or the hats. We've got the black ones, the grey ones, the yellow, and even blue is on the way soon. So yeah, if you want to help out the channel that way, much appreciated, and your tea will taste great as well. Now, while those dry, and by dry I do of course mean get rained on, I'm going to replace this little plate that I made up, DIY styley, a while back, and replace it with the actual purchased one, which I went and got this week, because I think that'd be a better bet really. It's a bit thicker metal, and it's got a proper gasket. So there you go, that's actually quite a more significantly chunky bit of steel. Paper gasket on there, yeah, bolt it all up, all happy days. Now, something else I bought this week was a little bit of pipe to go between here and here. Unfortunately, this is an SD1 water pump, not a P6 water pump, but it's very, very similar, so I just need to cut this down about here, and that'll be doing the trick just fine. So that does kind of fit, that's not too bad. Well, I need to get some more clips, hose clips, because I've not got anything that's the right size for that. I've only got ones that are too big and too small. I could do with a replacement for this pipe, but it'll do for now. Had a look at the back of the alternator, and I found this note to myself, top AB, so I think it means I use these two single plugs on the back of the alternator here, A and B, into the smaller and larger plugs. There are two other blanked off wires which I'd taped off myself years ago, because a long time ago I did a change to the charging circuit. There was a kit you could buy so you could use a more modern alternator, so these two are redundant. I'll put some more tape on them so it's not confusing later on. I did go and find in the footwell, I was going to have a look at this. This is a high pressure Pertec hose for the power steering pump, which connects down here, oops, I can't see, behind the brake reservoir, and runs down beside the engine under the radiator to where the power steering pump goes. Now that is horribly stuck, that bolt, so I will leave that for the moment. The entire power steering system is proving something of a headache at the moment. Does not want to turn one little bit. Fortunately the sun does seem to have come out a bit, so we're drying these bits of painty bits relatively quickly. Now I don't know which way around this fan goes. You do have this weird 5-blade thing going on, so it's a real strange off-kilter, I guess that's for like high harmonic balancing kind of thing, and there's a little pinhole just there, so it can only go on in the right position on the crank. And if I look on here, let's look to the front of the car, there is a little stud just there, so you can only get the fan on the right way around. Now, various things I'm not too worried about are making sure everything is absolutely perfect forever up here, because I'm going to change this to like a Holly or an Edelbrock inlet manifold and dual plane carburetor, a big American style thing, so it's going to run a lot better once the car's running properly, so I can sort the fuel system out more tidily. I was just trying to connect this fuel pipe up, but this is actually, this 10mm is a smidge loose. I reckon I want some 9mm for that instead, so I might pop down to the shops in a minute and go grab some 9mm fuel line and some hose clamps while that paint dries, and I can stop on the way back and go and get the radiator. Meantime, I'm going to pull this oil filter out. I'm going to pre-fill the oil filter so that I've got like half a litre of oil in there before we even start, because you can't do this when the radiator and the fan are in place. So yeah, we can just give this a bit of a top up. This really does drink up a lot of oil, because I've only got 5 litres of this running in oil, and the engine capacity is 5.5 litres, but everyone seems to think, everyone with any knowledge about this kind of stuff seems to think that half a litre of non-running in oil will not make a lot of difference in this situation. Having the filter pre-filled will help prime the oil pump quicker as well. If you remember, the oil pump is currently packed with Vaseline, so I don't want to turn the engine over at all until the oil system and everything else is ready to go and start building pressure and getting going. Okay, because it's got to go at an angle, I think that's about as full, just about as full as I can get it. little smear so it comes off again easily later. This is the first actual oil this new engine has had in it. Right, another minor victory. This is the link pipe between the two carburetors that was on the car. This one I've actually spent a bit of time cleaning up, so it actually looks quite pleasant. However, it's got double outlets on both sides of this this plastic pipe, but I can only fit the this screw-on fuel filter just here in the way, which is a really odd place for it. I did have this one in the box, which I've discovered kind of under the car, which works in exactly the same way, apart from the fact I haven't cleaned it, so it looks a bit scruffy. But it's got a pipe coming off here, which goes to a screw fitting, so I can put the screw-threaded fuel filter down here, out the way, in the bracket it's meant to live in. And I've just found some Gates 8mm. This is it actually says multi-fuel on it, but it's pretty brittle, so I'm not going to use it. But it does give me a template of what I need to go and get, which is what, half metre of 8mm multi-fuel. Awesome. I will also add that because of the new ethanol fuels and things we have got coming, this is plastic piping between the two, which was fine back when it was 4-star. 5-star is what this car came with originally. This pipe will have to be replaced as well, because that's just going to dissolve under ethanol. That's just not safe. That's a fire waiting to happen, as is this return line which disappears underneath the car as well, so that's another thing that needs to be sorted out. Actually, this fuel line leading into the pump itself is also pretty crusty. Now, I've had this car quite a while. I forget how long I've actually owned it now. It must be about 15 years. And this pipe was done before the car was laid up in the mid-90s, I think. So this is like 25-year-old rubber pipe, so that probably wants changing as well. This is also, it's 8mm Gates. It says multi-fuel on it, but now the next thing to be baffled at is this linkage just here. I did find one more linkage in the box, which would go all the way to the firewall, which so it looks like it may actually be the correct one. But this one has got to come out again, so I've just undone it with the zappy gun. So try and work out what I've done wrong, because I should probably try and explain this. This mechanism moves like this, so it rotates in this direction as if it's being pulled upwards effectively, but the wire, the cable from the throttle, is underneath it, so we can only pull downwards, and there's no downward travel on this. So clearly I've done this upside down or something. So, oh, also the other thing to mention is that I've now found, when I was lying under the car the other day playing with the exhaust, this, which you now can't see because it's behind the engine, little cup on a bar, is the kickdown trigger for the gearbox, which pulls up. Pulls upwards. Not that far, of course. Damn it. I'm going to have to go and reset that. Yeah, so... Oh good, I'm glad I did that. Yeah, so that's another thing that doesn't quite work properly. You probably can't see that from there, but this should be rotating like that. But... Oh no, wait. Oh, that's not the throttle cable. That is going down to the gearbox. Aha. So I've got this all arse about face. So where the hell's the throttle cable gone? Is this can't be the throttle cable, can it? If that is the throttle cable, that's returning very slowly. Right, the next random fun thing. This is where the alternator sits. It's currently sitting down there on the floor. I've been struggling to find a bolt to go into this little top socket, whatever you want to call it, bolt hole here, because I thought it was the same socket size or thread size as this one here, and also as that one down there. But whenever I tried to screw anything into it, it wouldn't go. But I've just realised, or just discovered by taking everything off again and looking more closely at it, the big aluminium block, that particular bolt hole is ever so slightly smaller, so I'm going to have to quickly drill that out. So this is the aluminium bracket which is normally up against the engine. That's the front end, which does work. That is the back end, which is smaller, bizarrely, than the hole in the block. So this is a drill, and I'm going to... There we go. Job is a good one, as they say. So now I can actually get a bolt through there and tighten it up, so I can refit the alternator properly now, which is a good thing. Okay, so fun fact, although you can buy any number of hose clamps and cable ties after lunchtime on a Saturday. You can't buy fuel line until Monday morning, so we won't have a car starting video this weekend, which I thought maybe we'd have a stab at, but no, that won't happen until next week now, I don't think. So I will make a start. I'll continue doing stuff with cable ties. Not cable. Why do I always keep calling these things cable ties? They're hose clamps. Clamp these heater bypass doodahs up. The reason I bought cable ties in the clear variety is I was actually told by a guy at the Breakers Yard, the Volvo place, what's it called, up on the M1, A1, that the hubcaps on these 740s parked behind me have a habit of falling off, which I was not aware of, and he recommended going in with some clear cable ties just so you keep your hubcaps. They're getting harder to find these days. Right, so this hose, which I cut down yesterday, is a fine fit and new and isn't going to leak and not make a mess on me, but the other one, which I've just put down over there, I was going to risk it, but it's actually cracking as you move it, so I'm going to have to go and find a new one of these in the week before I do anything else to this engine starting up wise. I'm going to assume this is an SD1 type pipe rather than the P6 type pipe, so I have to go and find whoever sells these things. Right, so now I can go in with my almost vaguely shiny-ish bits to go and make the front of the car work and be attractive to look at. So it's just 3 little nuts to hold this this fan belt pulley on. Usefully, P6s are built almost entirely with 1/2 inch 7/16 and 9/16 size bolt heads, which makes taking them apart quite easy in terms of the tools you need. This doesn't look like new, but it's certainly shiny enough and not rusty enough to be fine in this application. And bear in mind, this engine was meant to be sort of whacked in and out over a weekend, roadkill style, when I started the project before I had this YouTube channel. So I was never going to bother painting anything. Now the alternator and its new shiny bracket, which I've figured out how it fits together at last, can go on there. I mean, it's not that shiny, it's just passable to be perfectly honest, but it's better than rusty. And at last, an alternator belt. Goes around the lower one onto the, oh, that's way too long. Why is it every time I buy an alternator belt it's the wrong size? It's the right width, but there's no way that's going around there. That's like a mile too long. Brilliant. So something else I'm not starting the day with, starting the car with I should say. So yeah, this looks like, I think it's the fan belt that came off the car a couple of years ago when I took the engine apart, which, yeah, well, you know, it's the right length. I don't know why it is whenever I buy a fan belt for anything these days, it seems like I get given the wrong one. What? Oh, come on. That won't go down long, short enough to... interesting. That's the right length, but I can't get the fan alternator to fold in far enough to actually get it in there. I know, I'm going to have to undo that from there. Oh, wait a minute. No wonder it won't fit. That's completely cockeyed. Look at the angle on that. That is completely all over the place. And this was never a great fitting alternator to start with. That's not right. That's not right. This always used to throw fan belts all the time anyway, even before I put a new engine in it. So something's never been completely 100% with it. So what I'm going to have to do is basically shim out either the alternator from the engine or this little pulley wheel on the front of the alternator itself about, well, virtually a centimetre actually, because that's, now you've got this pulley on this pump, on the water pump, you can really see that it's basically a finger's depth that is coming too far back, and that's come too far forward. So yeah, I don't know if I've got enough length on this pulley nose drive shaft thingy to add some depth to that. If I can shim out these bits a bit and then shim out that a bit as well, I don't know, I'll figure something out. This is something to be played with during the week now. This is a new and exciting adventure I wasn't planning on. I'll put the radiator in while I'm thinking about it. Meanwhile, I've put the power steering pump back in. I'm now more and more thinking I won't use this, I will actually go with an electric system, but because this is going to be much easier to fit while there's no radiator and fan in there, I'll just put it in there now for the time being. it also keeps it off the floor in the garage. I've been thinking about this other shafty thing from the goes from the bulkhead to the engine. I'm actually thinking this throttle linkage might actually be from the Rover 2000, not from the 3500, because they're almost identical in the way that they work. And I took one off the 2 litre many years ago because we changed the carburetors on it, and so this looks like the fix we did to make it fit with the new carburetors, and it's gone back to the original carburetor now. So I think this is a red herring. I was throwing myself and giving myself additional confusion by finding extra parts that are not related. Right, I've figured out the throttle linkage situation by using actually a broom onto the accelerator, so I could wiggle it around and watch what was actually happening in the engine bay, because I couldn't see enough cables happening. This mystery meat linkage here, this lifts up and it's meant to push something. I couldn't see what it's meant to push on. On this one back here, which I think is, I don't know, it must be the wrong, oh no, it does go like that. There's pins that hold it all together. Unless I've got it all back to, no, it can't be back to front. That's attached to that, which goes to the engine. That rod here goes to that ball joint just there. That lifts up, turns that, rotates this lot, and opens the throttles. So just trying to figure out how on earth it all fits together with these bloody great rubber pipes in the way. Right, this is how it's all meant to go together. This is the little drive rod thing that lifts up to actuate the throttle. It's bolted on just here. There's little pegs that come out of this small shaft here in the top of the inlet manifold, which have little grooves that slots over, pegs it all together. This goes into the front, with a metal plate in front of the heater box. That goes down to that connector rod on a ball joint, down to that spring-loaded thing down there, which goes to the throttle linkage. That canted, twisted metal bar is actually the accelerator. The only problem is, which I've now realised, which isn't fitting together properly, this has broken before in the past. Someone has put a pop rivet through this plastic casing into the metal bar of this linkage, and there was lots of twisted wire on here which I couldn't quite work out, like baling twine kind of stuff, and so this has been cobbled together in the past. There's the remains of a rubber bush just here, which is stopping this plastic thing going on any further, even though it would like to. And yeah, so I'm going to have to try and make some new cobbled together thing, because otherwise my accelerator is going to fall off. I did actually just once again manage to cut my finger open. Always hurt myself on these damn cars, doing the hose clamps on the up to the heater box. Really hurt. When I was first doing this car, my original plan was actually to take out the heater box and replace it with a integrated all-in-one aircon unit, but the kind of costs of the project really spiraled out of control, so that never happened. However, it might do in the future. Once I've got everything working properly, I may well go and stick an aircon system in there, because it makes a black car a lot nicer to use in the summertime. Right, last thing I'm going to do today, I'm not going to jump in and do that immediately, because I want to have a quick think about it and work out what the best way of cobbling this thing together is before I break anything. So I'll have a little think about that. So I'll just put the radiator in here, because that'll be the last thing I do today. Now, from memory, the radiator goes in much easier before the fan. Oh, wait a minute. There are two little bolts down here which need to be undone first. Basically what holds it in are a pair of 1/2 inch topped small bolts. Now, oh no, hang on, was that right? Yeah. That's the windscreen washers, which have been in the way the entire time. Some random wires down here. This car has been fiddled with a lot over its life. Right, I'll tighten those up in a second. Let's go find some pipes first. So the two I want are a short one which goes down to the radiator down there, I'll grab a couple of hose clamps to pop on there, and this long one which goes across like that. I'll put the fan on before I put the top one on though. Now, something you probably can't see down past this power steering pipe, which is really in the way again, bloody power steering, is there's two little hoses right down the bottom of the engine bay. And these are the oil coolers for the gearbox. Now, I have history with these hoses. I took this radiator out over the grass at a lockup where I was storing the car. But I did it about 10 o'clock at night. It was dark, I was in a hurry. I just did it without even thinking. I forgot I undid those two tubes down there. Anyway, when the radiator came back a couple of weeks later, I refitted it again in the dark. And because it was so dark in a lockup with no power, yeah, middle of nowhere, I was completely oblivious of those two pipes down there. And so I filled it with water, but not any more transmission fluid because I was in the dark. I hadn't noticed it had drained all its transmission fluid across the floor. And when I started the car, it pumped the rest of its transmission fluid across the floor. And I made it about 100 metres before it burnt out the gearbox. So I'm going to make sure I actually do those ones up this time. They're quite significant. Right, I'm going to call it a day for now because it's dinner time and I'm fed up of being covered in oil and frustrated with stuff not working properly. So, good stuff. The linkage is virtually 99%. They just need to work out a way of connecting it all together so it doesn't fall apart again. I need to work out a way of moving the alternator drive wheel pulley thing forward about, well, its own width basically, about half centimetre to a centimetre. Then we'll have a fan belt that won't keep flying off. That lower oil cooler pipe seems to be snagged on something. I can't quite pull it far enough to reach the radiator, which is irksome, so I need to have a little fiddle with that, and then I can bolt the fan on once I've got access to that. During next week I will get a bunch of fuel line so I can replace all the fuel line throughout the car because that's something I don't want to make explode. Then I think we're basically there, we're ready to start the thing up, so HT leads. So next week I think we'll be starting the car. Thank you for watching, thank you for following the project, and sorry it's taken as long as it has, but there's lots more niggly bits than you might imagine trying to put a car together. Anyway, and my son is now shouting subscribe, so do that, and I'll see you again next time. Hopefully when it actually starts. I won't guarantee it though.